This is a photo of a bag of coffee shot on Foma 100, exposed at 400, pushed in Xtol. It's a combination that I really like and sort of newly discovered. In this video, I want to show some more examples of that combination. But there's something else I'm doing here too. I'm practicing my focusing with my Leica M6 0.58 finder and the Zeiss Sonnar ZM. If you don't know that lens, it produces beautiful images, but it has focus shift, probably more than any other lens that I've owned. And you sort of have to understand how the focusing works. You can't use it as mindlessly as you could with like a 50 Summicron. So what I've learned is that at f2, at least up until about almost 2 meters, you can use it like you would think you could, right? You just focus your camera, and where you focus is what's in focus. So this is a test roll of me practicing at f2 and making sure that it really is going to be in focus where I expect it, right? And we're going to get some nice sample images with the sonar. Okay, so I like to have these little cover sheets help me cover the basics pretty fast here. Foma 100 exposure index was about 400, right? When when I might give a little extra, third or half a stop sometimes. The Veloy Easy 35 for scanning, like a SL2S. There's the Sonar 50. It's an f1.5, but I like stopping it down a third or another 2/3. Maybe f2 is a sweet spot. Sometimes a little bit more open by a third of a stop. The Leica M6 TTL 0.58, Xtol undiluted at 85 degrees or 30 Celsius for 5 minutes with a 1-minute pre-wet. Now, where did that come from? Well, the Fomapan tech sheet for Xtol, you can see here that if you develop it hot at 30 Celsius, you can actually get some extra speed out of it. So I came down here, right, and I'm developing for about a 160 speed film. But you say, hey, why 400? Well, I'm pouring one stop out for my homies. All right. If you email Zeiss about the 50 sonar, they'll send you this generic letter. You say, hey, I've got focus shift issues. What's going on? Explain it. Right, and they say, this is a classical lens design. It helps you achieve pictures with a special artistic touch. It draws your subject in a fine, flattering manner. It is well suited for portraiture. The sharpness is slightly rounded. It is used to make glamorous portraits. Characterized by portraying the person in a shining, nearly celestial way. It's great that they wrote this letter. Right? The best focus position in the object space cannot be kept constant at all f-stops. The passionate photographer might notice a slightly closer best focus in his pictures than expected. I'm still sort of figuring out when you go beyond maybe 2 meters what happens. But I've got within 2 meters figured out. Blah 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 blah. It is used in emotional artistic narrative images, portraits, atmospheric landscapes. And it's like, if you really want to make sure you're sharp where you want it and everywhere, just stop it down to 5.6 or use the planar. Okay. All right, let's jump into the images. And then at the end, I do want to say a little bit more about Foma 100, but enough. Let's jump in. Did I start? Okay. All right, so here with the Sonar, my goal is to focus on the R, and that looks really good. Nailed it. Nailed it. Yeah, I mean, this was a tricky metering, right? Think about trying to meter that. So I don't know. There's not this wood table showed up pretty dark, and I can't really bring much out of the shadow details, right? The shadows are pretty gone. But again, it's like I'm shooting at 400, and I know you don't shoot at 400 and push film and expect to work your shadows a lot, right? You are giving up some shadows. That's part of the look you want, right? Or I want. Here I'm focused on the O in the coffee bag, and I am spot on, right? I'm when it's at f2 and you're within 2 meters, especially like 1.5 meters, but probably 2, right? You can treat f2 as just, it's going to be exactly where you think it should be focused. And this is I mean, if you just kind of look at the rendering, you look at kind of the moving into your out of focus areas, away and forwards, right? It's really beautiful, really beautiful. And if you open the lens just another third of a stop, you get a slightly more vintage out of focus. But if you want more, yeah. Oh, here, this is actually an example of, this is not f2, this is 1.7. My focus here is on my shutter button, which is sharp. I would say this is, again, I'm kind of pushing right there at 1.5 meters. Here the focus is a little bit in front of that shutter button. But yeah, it's a nice out of focus back. This is not a good shot, right? These are test shots. Okay, here I'm focused on the medicine cup, right? And again, Sonar nailed it. This is f2, and also the Sonar at f2 is not super sharp, but it is sharp enough for a 100 speed black and white film, right? So yeah, not your M11, but 100 speed film, it is sharp enough. And then again, like if I try to open up these shadows, right? These are weak shadows. So, but that's part of, right? I know I'm throwing away some shadows here, and I'm pushing up the contrast. And if you're saying, well, why would you do that, right? It's like, photography is a lot like music, right? We like what we like. This is what I like. I like pushed film. Here, right, focused on this bag of coffee. I should have reached out to Kova, see if they'd sponsor this by giving me a bag of coffee. Again, right, that contrast makes these highs pop, right? And I haven't been getting into the grain enough, but right, the grain is like, if anything, it's beautiful, especially when I get in here at 100%. I almost want it to be bigger, right? Or I'm just gonna I'm just gonna crop into these, because it's just sort of a shame that when you're all the way zoomed out, the grain is too fine for me, right? These are photos that I really like having on my monitor to go dig into and say, wow, look at the grain. But right, that's not going to really translate on a print. So in terms of is this going to become my favorite go-to film? Well, no, because I'm going to shoot a 400 speed because I want more grain and I want more speed. But if I'm going to choose a 100 speed film, right, this is now a serious contender for me. Here is one where, so once I, right, definitely within like 1.7 meters, I can just use f2 like a normal 50 for focusing. But beyond that, it's back to that letter that Zeiss sent, where the best focus is a little bit in front of what you're expecting. So here you're like, what do you mean the cat looks sharp? Well, I focused on the mirror, the side mirror. So right, and this is at f2, so it's right. I've always thought, oh, I'll just focus at f2, kind of regardless of the distance. But I'm maybe learning that the further away you focus, f2 is no longer the sweet spot, and I might need to either, well, I actually shot another test roll where I figured this out, and it's drying right now, so I'll stop talking about it. And then here again, I focus more on the plastic containers, and it's sort of front focused at f2. There'll be better ones, but like whenever I do this type of test, right, I'm also interested in kind of where the density did sort of build some, right? What does that grain look like? Right, and here, if you just adjust the tonality so it's easier to see the grain, right? Again, it's like this is really beautiful, zoomed in, but that's not really how I'm going to enjoy but it's beautiful grain. And it makes me want to just crop into this stuff so I can, right? It's like, that's what I want to see. Now this one I sort of edited. I sort of like this like black divide down the middle. Right, I can actually open that up quite a bit. I guess my philosophy is like I like to develop with a push, like a moderate push, and then I like to edit in an even stronger push, right? I get a little scared about going super big with the development push, because if you miss your exposures by a little bit, now I say this, but I'm about to go through a phase where I'm actually going to go pushing really hard and see what happens. And people who watch my channel are like, Daniel, you used to develop at 90 degrees for like 9 minutes in undiluted, so you've already gone through that phase. This is at f2, and it's focused exactly where I thought it would. Maybe a touch. I was aiming for this tape dispenser, and the focus is maybe a few inches in front of it. Maybe. It's good enough. That's Sonar, right? This Sonar is absolutely gorgeous out of focus areas. It's got a lot of contrast too. It's probably my most contrasty lens. Here, focused on the Lego cat. Although I think I focused on this ear. I did. I focused on this ear, and it pulled, right again, it sort of pulled forward. Right, and with this type of scene, it doesn't really matter, right? The exact focus doesn't really matter. And we're back to this coffee bag again. I gravitated to the coffee bag because it was easy to focus on. It has these vertical lines. It has the text. If we get in here at 100%, right, this is exactly what I want my 100 speed film to look like. All right. So I think that, right, if I wanted sort of more of a box look and I didn't want a lot of contrast, right, I could shoot this at, well, of course 100, but I think you could even shoot it at 200 and do a development similar to the one I did. Right, but once you go all the way out to 400, you're really chopping off some shadows on an average scene, which a lot of these are. I wouldn't want to go past 400. Well, maybe I do. Maybe I do. Okay. All right, a little bit more about Foma. So it used to be that like the best place to get Foma was like Freestyle, right? So you go to Freestyle and you'd see the Fomapan price of $809, and then for a dime less, you could buy Arista EDU, which everybody knew was just Fomapan, right? But that's no longer true. I went to Freestyle to go buy some more Foma, and all of a sudden, like the packaging has changed, and like I'm like, what is going on? And so I figured it out here. So let's start with this orange box. So this orange box is right. It has a special anti-halation layer built in to improve sharpness, and is made in Germany. A 100 speed black and white film. So Germany. So this is not Foma. Okay. This is UN 54, although they're saying that it has the anti-halation layer. So I bet this is NP100 from Orwo. And this one is, it says here that it is made in the United Kingdom, which is also not Foma. Okay, so this is now probably, it's a generic Harman Ilford Pan 100 film. So Freestyle has swapped out the Arista EDU line with a different product. So you can come here and buy Foma for $809. However, you can also get it. One Lot Film sells it for $7.50. And it's also Lomography's Earl Grey, right? So, which is typically more expensive, but like here, Royal We Film Lab has it for $7.30 because they got a buck off right now. And then, right, then you need some Xtol. Okay, final thoughts here. After I looked at this, I ordered more Foma, and I've also got some D76. I just made my own D76H, and I'm going to give Foma a go in that. But I'm now just like, there's so many good 100 speed films, right? There's FP4, there's Kentmere 100, there's this like Harman Pan 100, there's P33, there's UN 54. What am I not remembering? So there's no shortage of beautiful 100 speed films, but Foma has always sort of been like, it has like almost a reputation as being like a budget film because it's cheap. But I mean, look at this. Look at this. Okay. And as far as the sonar, right, like I want to shoot that lens more, and I know it's best in the short to, right, in the kind of 3 meters and in. Oh, I did want to say this is minimum focus at 0.9 meters, right? That's why this one is maybe a little significant. But I still feel like there's something to figure out, right? Of my closest focus does, I feel like, scoot closer to me than I think. Once I get beyond 2 meters, and it goes back to this letter, right? And it said for the passionate photographer, they might notice a slightly closer best focus in his pictures than expected. They assume the photographer is a male. But I want to master this lens because it is so good when it comes together. All right, take care.